ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Air Semper Hoya. My name is Bonner, James Bonner, and today I have a very special guest by the name of Monica Daniel. We met at the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute. She's a colleague and a friend, and just like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is incredible, and I want to say thank you to you for the work that you're doing. You know, veterans, right? We are veterans, near and dear to our heart. And again, you know, having been an active duty service member, transition to retirement, and a true, you know, veteran, I can tell you there is a gap, and I think that you're working to fill that gap. And yeah, hats off to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as we used to say at Diomi, thank you for your feedback.
Yes.
So just a little bit about Monica. She has a MBA with an undergrad of HR from Webster University and Maryland.
Yeah, University of Maryland.
University of Maryland. So we're very familiar with those universities. So awesome job. Like I said, we met over at Diomi. So today we're going to learn a little bit more about her. And that way you can know and see another veteran who served 24 years active federal service honorably. And she was, what was your MOS again?
I was Human Resources.
Human Resources. So it just kind of transitions over. So we'll look at the business side and what she does a little bit later. But for now, we'll go on and kind of talk about some of the things that you've been throughout your career in those 24 years. Thank you for your service. So looking at the very beginning, when you decided to go into the military, you had several choices, but what made you choose to join the Army?
So I guess I will begin this interview by prefacing the fact that you have a deep faith in Jesus Christ.
Okay.
So I will tell you, I didn't choose the Army chose me.
Got it.
And you know, I can tell you when I first came in, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I did this. But looking back, God certainly had a plan. I say the Army chose me because I had graduated high school. I had a father who was willing to help me, support me through college. You know, he did want me to go and look for opportunities to get scholarships and those kinds of things. So I had an avenue, but I did not know what I wanted to do with my life. I was lost. I knew I didn't want to go back to school.
Right.
And so I was stuck at my little McDonald's job. It was a job, but you know, I knew that that wasn't my forever. You know, there was something else inside of me. And I was in transition, and I felt like I was in a bit of a rut. And in walks a recruiter, and boy, do they know how to spot, you know, a kid who just has no plan and is looking for something more. And just the discussion that he had with me, like I had this, you know, outside of my parents, I was old enough, you know, had this discussion with this recruiter about, you know, benefits, that I really didn't know would benefit me now, right? So yeah, okay, benefits. What else do you have? Yeah. And so, you know, talked about the benefits. We talked about educational benefits, and I was like, okay, my dad's off the hook. You know, I felt bad because again, he wanted to help me, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I thought, what a way to figure out who I am, you know, what I want to do with my life, and oh, by the way, I can you know, help myself get myself through school. And then he talked about travel. And that was the thing that sold me. I was like, I can go where and see what? You know, I grew up in Houston, Texas, big city of Houston, Texas. Right. And I think I was a sophomore when my family moved us to this really small town. So my last 2 years of school was done in this really small town. I think my graduating class was 500 compared to the thousands that I would have graduated with in Houston. So the opportunity to get out of that small town just won me over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be a recruiter. You may not have known that. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. So yeah, recruiters have to do what we have to do.
Yes.
And truly, from my perspective, being a recruiter, they buy you. Because the Army is not something you could just pick up and say, here, try the Army out for a couple of days. You know, it's an idea,
Right.
you know, from the very beginning.
Right.
So I won't say, I'll try to remain unbiased, but I think you made a really good choice in your decision.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so a lot of things happen throughout our careers, and I'm always interested to know what was one of the most difficult things that you experienced in being in the Army specifically.
So, wow, that's a huge one. There are a lot of challenges to being a young person and joining the military, right? That's significant in and of itself. But I will tell you, being a female, a young lady joining the military was quite an experience. And I will say to you that I was very wet behind the ears. I didn't realize how sheltered I was at home until I got into the military. And, you know, the military is a competitive environment. Hands, you know, just on its own. You know, they teach you, you're going to go compete for the next rank. You know, if you work really hard, you're going to get the high PT score. If you shoot your weapon well, you're going to get the expert badge, and this is pushed, right? All the time, because they need you to be your very best, because our mission is so significant. But, you know, you enter this organization, this competitive organization, and then you find it's a male-dominated competitive organization. So not only am I competing against myself, but I'm competing against all of these, and my peers, my female peers, but all of these males for just these few opportunities of advancement. And so you learn a lot about, you know, yourself as a human. You understand the need for competition. You learn it over time, the need for competition. But until you figure that out, boy, the days are pretty long and pretty hard. And so trying to navigate, again, this male-dominated organization and having to understand the male culture and how to get along in it, right? Because you have to adapt to it. They're not necessarily going to adapt to you, at least in my time. I think, you know, the military, as we go along in time and as we understand the dynamics of the individuals in the organization, we get better at it. We still have a lot of work to do. But in my time, you know, we were still struggling. So I think that might have been the toughest challenge for me.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't really pick up on the male-female dynamic really until later in my career, because the majority of the places I'd been, like my basic training was not with females. My didn't really work with a lot of females throughout my career. Never had a female supervisor. And then learning that I can work and can be, because I just didn't know how. Didn't want to step on eggshells, things like that. So the dynamic was, you know, different, but it all came together. Because like you said, we all improve, and the military is getting it right and better each day.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely a goal, and I understand the competitiveness as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So that was, you were, you know, kind of explaining the more difficult things. What was one of, or several of the better things about being in the Army?
So I will tell you, again, just the opportunity for growth. In my time, in my career, during my career, there are many times when I was pushed outside of my comfort zone. And I proved to myself that I could accomplish things that I never thought I could. Getting through basic training alone, going back to my beginning, and not explaining to my parents what I was exploring, and then making the decision to do it, my entire family laughed at me. They're like, "You're gonna do what?" No, not a track star, no sports, no. I hated my McDonald's job because I had to take out the garbage, and I was enlisted, so I've taken out much garbage. But But again, so when I say pushed outside of my comfort zone, I mean from day one. When I didn't understand what it was, what I was heading into. But boy, when I got there, I figured it out really quickly. But again, the fact that I woke up day after day after day doing things that I never thought I could accomplish. Right. I taught myself that if I step out in faith, right, if I step, it can happen, whatever that it is. Did I get it all right? Will I fail? Will I learn lessons? Absolutely, that's part of the journey. But I also taught myself that I will pick myself up when I do fall or fail and keep going. Right. So, that was significant for me. And it wasn't until I was much older in my career that I started doing it on my own. So I kept getting pushes, I can name a few people, and I don't know if they will ever see it. Major Cerruti. I was an E3 going to an E4. And she saw something in me, and she's like, you need to get to the promotion board. E4. You need to get to the promotion board ASAP. I was like, no way. I've heard about that promotion board thing. I'm not doing that. And so I came up with every excuse. And every time I had an excuse, she had an answer. To the point I told her, I have my basic training greens, my Class A's, my basic training Class A's. And you got to have nice Class A's to get to the board, and I can't afford that right now. She offered to buy me Class A's, and I was like, okay, I'll buy my own Class A's. I felt bad, but it was my excuse. It wasn't something that I couldn't do for myself. She pushed until I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then you get to the board, and you score a near max. I think I missed it by 1 point. And I can remember that because that was significant to me, because again, I didn't believe in myself, but I showed up. I prepared, I showed up, did my part, and then the rest was taken care of, right? And I exceeded. To the Sergeant Major, Staten. I can't even say her name at the moment. She was a tough one. I didn't agree with, her leadership style entirely. But boy, does she know how to push you as an individual. And, I remember being an E6 at this point, staff sergeant, and I'd been passed over for promotion boards, and I was just like, man, I don't understand, I can rock this S1 thing, and, my PT is on point, and my weapons are good, and, I'm trying to go to school. That's important. We'll get there. But I couldn't understand, what it was that I wasn't doing. She went to a promotion board, and she was an MP. I was an AG. She walked down the hall to ask some questions. And she came back to me, and she's like, Monica, you're just going to have to set yourself apart from your peers. You're going to have to go do something that nobody else is doing. That's the bottom line of this, because she didn't understand why I was being passed over as well. So I don't know if she made the call, but all of a sudden I was DA selected to drill sergeant school. And it's something that she had told me I needed to do before. And I was like, no, I can't do that. And of course, more excuses, right? And so again, selected to drill sergeant school. I'm like, there's no way I can do this. But there you go. You go to drill sergeant school, and you exceed the standards, and you're on the commandant's list, and you're off to basic training doing some pretty hua stuff. And again, it's cumulative, right? You take one step and you grow a little bit. You take another step and you grow a little bit more, and you gain confidence in yourself along the way. And I will tell you, I am in a job currently that requires, it's a pretty significant position. I am in a setting with a lot of important people, a lot of smart people doing a lot of great work. And there are many times when I tell myself, what are you doing here? But I look back on my experiences in the military, and I say, you know what, Monica, you've showed up for yourself time and time again, and you've excelled time and time again. This is no different. You know, you give what you've been given, right?
Right.
And he's going to take care of the rest, the way he always has.
Wow, that's awesome. In the beginning, you kind of mentioned the travel. You kind of perked up when you started talking about travel.
Yes.
What was the best place in all of your tours? Where was the best place you've ever been?
So I can't say I'm much of a skier, but I will tell you, if there's a perfect experience on this earth, there's a couple, right? I'm married to an amazing human being, and I have beautiful children. But as far as Army experiences and places are concerned, I had the opportunity to ski the Alps. Now, not the Swiss Alps, but the Bavarian Alps. Alps the same. Yeah. But when I tell you it was a beautiful place, this is my first time skiing ever.
Okay.
B, had in my mind what skiing would be, like this cold experience, and you're just trying to survive the hill, right, or the mountain, whatever it is. And but not this day. I was in snow pants and a t-shirt. The sun was shining, the trees were green, the snow was powdery, and I'm learning how to ski. So there was this really cool ski instructor, and I'm skiing down the Alps with no poles because that's how they teach you.
Wow.
I guess poles are for speed, and skis are for skiing.
They don't want you to have too much speed.
So I think that was the best traveling experience I can think of. It sticks with me. It's when I experienced it, I was amazed, and when I look back, when I tell people about my journeys, that's the one story I always go back to.
Now, see, from being a recruiter, if you're a recruiter out there and you heard the story she just told about the Alps, use that in your videos, and you'll get more people to join the Army.
You can ski the Alps.
So that's awesome. So leading on to that, you talked about the thing that was the difficult, the things that were really nice, the traveling. What would you tell the people? What would you tell someone who is thinking about joining the military in general, or specifically the Army? What advice would you give them?
I would say prepare yourself for a really tough journey. Military life is about sacrifice. And I wouldn't want to encourage anyone to join without sharing that with them. Be prepared to sacrifice. However, also prepare yourself for the rewards, because there are some really cool rewards to this life. I would tell folks to understand that it's important to get a couple of things right early. Be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, and with the right uniform equipment, and do what you're asked to do. Do what you're expected to do. Nobody knows you from anybody. It's a huge organization, and you can get lost really fast. But if you do those two things and do it to the best of your ability, you're going to get recognized. So that competition piece, you're going to see people fighting for things, and folks are going to gravitate towards you, and they're going to mentor you, and they're going to lead you down the right path. So again, doing those two things, I think, just opens doors for you to even greater rewards. You're going to get a reward anyway. The camaraderie, the sisterhood, brotherhood, the feeling of family. I have made some incredible lifelong friends through the military. And honestly, in my heart, they're family. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're spread out. I know people everywhere. So again, rewards are great, but do those two things to open the doors. seek out a mentor. You can go further, faster if you have somebody who's gone before you and who's traveled the path that you're trying to travel onto. So seek out a mentor, and you can find those easily. The shining stars definitely shine bright in the military.
Yeah.
So find that shining star, ask them to be your mentor. Emulate some of the things that they are doing. Ask all the questions that you want to ask, and ask more questions, follow-on questions if you still don't understand. Third thing I would say is, if you were like me, it's going to be your first time coming into a nice pot of cash at the end of the month. I learned about investments later in my career. Invest your money as soon as you start earning it. You didn't have it before, so you won't miss the little bit that you will be investing. Make your money work for you. Don't live your life out having your money, having to work for your money.
Right.
Make your money work for you.
Being at a zero every time new paycheck comes around.
Exactly. Pay yourself and invest.
Awesome.
And of course, I'd say tithe, but.
That's awesome advice. If you're thinking about joining the military, definitely take what Monica's saying, because it's so true. So take it for what it's worth. Can't say you don't know. Once we tell you some information, now you're responsible for it. So share this with people who are thinking about joining the military, and specifically the Army. Mm-hmm. Go Army.
Go Army.
Y'all didn't think I was going to say that, did y'all? All right. So so it sounds like you had a really good career. It's a very interesting story. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So then you came in working for McDonald's, and you've been all the way through the beautiful Alps, and you've given some great advice to our future soldiers.
That's right.
Marines, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, Space Force, whatever it is out there. What got you to 24 years, and what decision made you get out in 24 instead of going, say, 30 years?
Yeah, okay. So what got me through the years? Not figuring it out. I told you I came in and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And before I knew it, I was at the 10-year mark. And, the story is, once you hit 10, that's it. You better not,
Lifer.
Yeah, you're a lifer. You better not get out. You got retirement right around the corner. And I still didn't understand what that meant.
Right.
You don't know what retirement means until you retire. You don't understand the benefits that you receive until you retire. So hit the 10-year mark, still not understanding, and decided, okay, I'm a lifer. That's what they said. 10 years, I got to do it. And I was having fun, And so about the 10-year mark, it kind of all came together. Get a mentor. It should have came to me a lot sooner. But about the 10-year mark, I started to figure it out, started to get my feet under me. I was having a good time. My promotions were coming, doing some HOA stuff. Love soldiers. I love soldiers. Having a good time. Had some really great soldiers doing some really HOA stuff. Soldier of the Year boards and all kinds of cool stuff, right? Nice. Having a really great time. Figured out that I needed to get my butt in school, because that was the goal at the beginning. Right. Got into school, and of course I enjoyed that tuition assistance. Yes, I had a GI Bill, another benefit, right? Yes, I had a GI Bill set aside if I wanted to get out and go to school. But while I was in, they're paying my tuition, so why not, And, going through school, it was hard, having a full-time job, a career, shortly after the 10-year mark, a family, and trying to go to school, that was a little tough. But again, the military's paying for it, so I owed myself, and I took advantage of that. And so fast forward to about the 20-year mark, when everybody decides it's time to go home, right? Yeah. And I love my family. I'd missed my family. And at the 20-year mark, the Army does what it usually does, and it dangles that little carrot. And there was two things actually. So it was a promotion opportunity to Master Sergeant, and I at that point you could start transferring your GI Bill, your benefit,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
to your family members, and I had a daughter. And so again, I was letting the military pay for they paid for my undergrad. I was moving on to my grad degree. It was going to be paid for, so I thought, why not set my daughter up for success, right? Why not transfer her a 4-year ride to my child, you know? And so I had to give a service obligation to do that.
Oh, yeah, 4 years.
Yeah, I think it was like 3-4 years.
Right, yeah.
So 3 years for the Master Sergeant, 3 or so years for the transferring of the benefit, 24 years.
Wow.
It goes fast.
Yeah.
It goes so fast.
It's like a snap of the finger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how was your transition out of the Army? How was it? We'll just stick with it. Let me ask it again. How was your transition after 24 years out of the Army into the civilian life?
Yeah. Okay. Is this a Keep It Real show?
Yeah.
Are y'all a Keep It Real audience? That's the question. Transition was tough. It was tough. Like I said, you become a part of a team, right? And to be quite honest, I kind of lost Monica, and I was Master Sergeant, right? And or Sergeant, whomever, or Private, whomever. You know, 24 years is a long time, and I let the lines blur. You know, Monica was her rank, her uniform, her unit, her soldiers. You know, I didn't know who I was. You know, I knew I was a mom. I knew I was, you know, a student. You know, I knew those things. But who was Monica? What made Monica tick? What made Monica happy? Monica was doing what she had to do for, you know, all of these people. And so when it came time to let go of the military, I was kind of scared. And if you asked my boss at that time, who is oddly enough still my boss, but if you ask my boss at that time, he will tell you that I worked until the day before my transition leave. And most soldiers, you know, when it comes time to retire, it's like, okay, I'm retiring, I'm going to back out, and I'm going to go take care of, you know, these things I need to take care of, to the point I didn't even apply for VA disability until after I was on transition leave. I didn't want to let go. I didn't know how to let go. So I found myself in kind of a dark place when I didn't have to wake up and put on a uniform and have a purpose for the military. It was hard, and you know, my identity was so tied in that uniform, and so, you know, on the other side, you know, there was some things I started to learn about myself. You pull off, it's like my superpowers were stripped of me when I took off my uniform. And I was vulnerable, and I was exposed, and I had all these feelings. And, you know, again, you grow up in a military that says, if you're feeling a certain kind of way, figure that out, but we don't want to know about it, because if we know about it, then it may impact certain jobs, security clearances, those kinds of things. And so the type of stuff that I'm talking about here is like depression and, you know, anxiety, and, you know, I'm now learning PTSD, you know, things that I didn't address while I was in the military for those reasons I just said. And again, you're outside and you're having these feelings and these thoughts, and you don't know why, and you don't know what it is, and you don't know where it came from. So it was a difficult time transitioning. But through the transition, again, I picked up some skills, right? I picked up some of those golden nuggets. Monica, you've gotten through. You've been exposed to tough times. You've proven that you can, continue. You can pick yourself up. And so using those skills on the outside, I did that, because I had to. I had a daughter who was depending upon me. So, it became, okay, what do I do with this? Let me go to the VA and let me figure this out.
Right.
And I will tell you, there's a question that you're going to get to, and maybe, but I will tell you, there's no manual for retirement. There's no manual on, what that looks like, or what you might experience, or what you might go through. And again, having grown up in the military in a time, it's not like that now, thank goodness. To an extent, I imagine it might still be, but to grow up in a time where you kept that to yourself, that was the mentality, you don't share that. I carried that with me. So I wasn't trying to connect with other people who might be, transitioning and possibly experiencing the things that I was experiencing. But I had the wherewithal to say, I'm not going to stay here, and I'm going to go find someone who can help me understand this and help me manage this. Right? And so the VA, it took me a few calls, because I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know how to term what I was feeling or experiencing. So when I'm calling folks, they're like, ma'am, come in, maybe you've got a headache, or, why do I have chest pains? Oh, let's test your heart. Oh no, there's nothing wrong. And it was a cardiologist, actually, who told me, ma'am, your heart's fine. I'll see you in about 30 years, but you might consider the fact that you have anxiety, and maybe you should go see, a counselor. So get on the phone with the VA. I got it. I think I know what it is. And like I said, it's about managing it. The one thing that I wanted to do was reject it, because again, being in the military, that not so great side is you have to be at your peak.
Yep.
You have to perform. You have to push through. You have to execute. And I get it, because again, the mission is significant. We go to war, that's our purpose, wartime, right?
Yep.
Fighting the nation's fight to maintain our liberties. So you have to be on your peak. So again, it was very difficult for me to wrap my arms around the fact that this is something I'm going to have to live with. I wanted to reject it. I didn't want it. Oh, my anxiety, depression, PTSD, not me. No, because I have to do these things that I was still tied to, right? Because I didn't know how to do this transition thing. I was still trying to pull myself apart from the uniform and be who I am. So again, I wanted to reject, not me, I don't have it. How do you cure this? Is there a pill? What do I do? How do I get, I don't want. And, through many sessions of therapy, I've come to understand it's not something that necessarily goes away, it's just something that you manage. And what I learned was that while I was on active duty, I had things in my life that were helping me manage it. I had it before I even retired. It didn't happen overnight, right? There were experiences that I had in the military that contributed. But while I was in the military, I'm doing PT 5 days a week. I've got things to concentrate on, and I have things to keep me busy. You come on the outside, and a soldier, again, those sacrifices, it's 24/7, right? Oh, yeah. So, I had some time to myself on weekends, but a lot of times I didn't, or after work. My nights would go long. I'd work and take care of the kid, I'd get some rest, and I'd start all over again, right? I was busy or asleep. That was my life. Now, I'm transitioned. I have a little more time on my hands. I can sit with myself and understand that I have, these feelings and these thoughts, and, what is this? And, so.
Wow. So that's a very interesting story about the PTSD, depression, things like that. I am starting a new series coming up soon. It's called Bridging the Gap, Bridging the Cultural Gap Between the Civilians and Veterans, because we're going to transition over to her civilian side. But look out for that series. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be from my perspective and people that I know, like Monica, who go through a lot of things, because when you're talking about PTSD, what she's saying, and what I agree with, is that she eventually, just like we all will, if you have PTSD or depression or anxiety, you have to deal with it. It does not get better. And I don't want to see anybody go down the road of, drugs or alcohol, because those are some of the safe zones people go to deal with it. But you're going to have to deal with it eventually. So stay tuned for that series.
Yeah.
Looking back at everything that you've mentioned so far, and moving on to your civilian life, when it comes to leadership, what are some characteristics about leadership that you look for or have or possess or want or look for from a mentor?
Right.
What kind of characteristics do you see or desire?
Yeah. So, again, because of my faith, right? The thing that I strive most for these days is to be that servant leader. So important is it for me to understand the needs of those I lead. What is important to them? How can we grow them? How can we challenge them? How can I help them be a better version of themselves? And how do I motivate them to get done, what we need to get done, right? And so I think another attribute skill is communication. Oh, so important and oh, so difficult. You and I are communicating, right? But I think what people miss is it's not just dialogue, right? I have to understand you from where you are, not from where I am, or not from what I think or what I feel or what I believe, but from where you are and what you think and what you feel and what you believe. Only when I can really communicate with you can I be successful in being that servant leader, right? So and it takes me to another thing, right, is making people feel included, being an inclusive leader. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know your ideas. I don't have all the answers. I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I'm smart enough to know that between however many people it is on the team, we can make it happen. We can come up with some really creative ideas. We can be innovative. We can lead. We can exceed. We can be the go-to. So that's just a few.
Oh, that's awesome, because the leadership styles, from what I remember, is different. The Army has always been very direct on their leadership style, and that was considered leadership. Direct, not always being cool and calm, collected. It was sometimes fist to the table and very aggressive leadership. But going out into the civilian sector, it's, especially if you're not with a military structured, like a contractor job or GS level job, when you kind of separate yourself from that, if somebody ever does that, then it's a totally different story.
Absolutely.
Because their style of leadership is different, with different expectations, and there's a communication gap there as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So
now I've been both, mind you. Right. Because again, I grew up in that environment, right? Very demanding, very, like you said, fist to table. So you emulate, what you see day in and day out. Right. I've been that leader. I got results, but I can tell you from being on both sides and having the the luxury of just being who I am as a human versus a soldier,
Right.
I get far better results now than I did then.
Right.
And I got some good results then, but it's so much more fun now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot less stress.
Yeah.
And a different stress, but
yeah.
nowhere near.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. So when can we expect a book?
That book.
the book, because your story is profound, and that's the reason we're doing these interviews, because there's so many great soldiers, sailors, Marines that are out there, Coast Guardsmen, future Space Force out there, and your stories never get told.
Right.
And there's so much to be proud of. There's a lot of struggles. There's a lot of success that never gets told. So that's what these interviews are for.
Yeah.
It's for you to learn something about your community member. If you never saw this video before, you'll never know. It's a conversation starter. It's a conversation starter. I'll just leave it at that, because now you can share, now that you know a little bit about her, and she's putting herself out there to share with you all because it's important. Now you have a reason to start a conversation. So you can leave some comments down below. Maybe we'll answer those questions. Monica can't answer those questions. I can't speak for her. But that's what it's about. So thank you for viewing. It's definitely a pleasure to have Miss Monica Daniel here today. So no future.
Well, here's the thing. You brought me out of my shell, because one thing I don't like to do is talk about me. I don't. So I would be a chapter in someone's book. I couldn't write a book about myself, I don't think. But if there were a book to write, I think it would be, you know those books, What to Expect When You're Expecting?
Right.
What to expect when you're retiring, you
Right.
know? Like, I really think that manual is needed. I would have loved to have flipped through the pages, right?
Yeah.
And where you can't capture everything, even something would be a nice start, right? So maybe you should write that book, because you seem to have it down. But, I don't know. I'm just leaning on my faith. I step out 1 foot at a time, 1 day at a time, and, where God leads me, that's where I'll go. I prayed on this, and I think maybe there's something that somebody needed to hear from maybe my story, and that's why I did it. So, I don't know.
Well, that's so awesome. Again, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we haven't discussed today? Any honorable mentions you'd like to maybe say out there to anybody?
So I will tell you, my tribe is my life. And the one thing that I will tell you is I do what I do for my children. Again, we emulate those things that are closest to us. And if I'm going to push them, that means I have to continue to push myself. So this is dedicated to them. I hope that one day they see this and say, wow, that's, my mom, my stepmom. And then I hope that they go, sometime in the future and look back on it and say, okay, I get it. Because our children range from 11 to 19 or 20, 19, 20. So the young ones, I really hope they're like, yeah, I get it. But the only other honorable mention I would say is my husband, who, like I said, is a great human being, a huge support, and makes life fun. Makes waking up every day just something to look forward to. So thank you to my husband. Thank you to my children. You are my motivation. You are my heart. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Almost, I need to grab a tissue. Yeah. So, that is so awesome. Hey, Daniel family. She talks about you guys all the time.
Yeah.
And very happy person now. Not that you weren't happy before, just
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
and she's definitely loves you guys.
Yeah.
So maybe you learned something too that you maybe didn't know about your
Maybe.
mother and your wife. And again, conversation starter.
Maybe.
Communication is key. Understanding from her perspective and her life.
Yeah.
So again, I'd like to thank you so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely.
Air Semper Huya. This is what it's all about. It's a pleasure. Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah.
I know it'll benefit a lot of people that are out there in the world.
Yeah.
So maybe this is your virtual book. But I'd like to thank you again for being on the show. It is always a pleasure to talk with you. And I wish you the best of luck. And
Yeah.
hopefully this won't be the last time that you're on the show.
Maybe not.
So, come back on anytime if you just want to kind of give us an update or anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that can help, the people watching the videos and continue doing great things. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I wish the best to you. Like I said, this is a really great work that you're doing, body of work that is so important. So again, thanks to you. Thank you.
And it's because of people like Monica, we did Terry Spain, and John Brewster.
Yeah.
So we're on a good roll. We got some great people, some very honorable people who are doing great things, not only in their business and their family, but in their community.
Yeah.
So
one last thing.
Sure.
If you're out there and you have a story and you're on the fence about telling it, I say just take the leap. Because again, it may be one person, it may be 10 people, but somebody needs to hear it. So
Right.
yeah, just do it.
All right.
Yeah.
So everybody, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for those who support the channel and support our veterans. I salute you all. Take care. Have a great day, great rest of your week, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.
Is that what we do here?